Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. We're going to start tonight's Common Council meeting with three seeker assessment review forms, and I will turn it over to Karen to read through them.
So you were provided in your packet with three different projects that are going to be conducted through the Water Sewer Department. The first one is the City of Glens Falls wastewater treatment plant electrical upgrades. A description of the action is that the proposed project is to upgrade electrical distribution equipment in the City of Glens Falls wastewater treatment plant and replace an aeration blower. Tonight we have with us also A.J. Brooks from Arcadis, the engineering firm that assisted the city with the completion of the Part 1, 2, and 3. We have Jeremy Schneider, the city engineer, and William Norton, the superintendent of the Water Sewer Department. With respect to the electrical upgrades, it's been classified as a Type 1 action. The city undertook a coordinated review. That means that we sent the documentation to New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, and the State Historical Society office, or State Historical Office. So our job tonight is to review the Part 2 identification of potential project impacts, and we have to read all of the questions, and where the engineer has indicated there may be an impact, we then have to answer all of the subcategories. A lot of them have been completed by the engineer based upon the information that's contained in the Part 1. And if you review Part 1, it references you to the different sections. So when I ask a question, you're going to have to answer yes or no initially, and then no or small impact or moderate. So number 1, with respect to electrical.
What page are we?
Part 2, page 1 of 10. 1, impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. The answer is yes. Now we have to review the subcategories. The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. No or small impact. The proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater.
I'm sorry, Karen. I'm just trying to find where you are.
Part 2.
So it's the first part is 13 pages.
Yep.
And so it's right after that 13th page.
Okay, the second
Yeah.
part. Okay,
So she's now on impact on the land. We answered yes, because it does impact the land.
Physical alteration.
So physical alteration.
So paragraph B, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. No. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of an existing ground surface. No.
Did we skip the water table?
I had already asked that question.
Okay,
I can repeat it.
Yep.
A, the proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. No or small impact. D, the proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. No. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. That's moderate to large impact. This project will occur over phases and may take longer than a year. This is the electrical upgrades, correct? The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. No. The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. No. Moving on to question 2.
Karen, the electrical upgrade is a single phase, single year.
Single phase, but is it going to be in the year?
It should be within 12 months.
Okay, so we should say no to that question? Thank you.
Do you have the answer?
that's what it said. It says no on the
Mine
page.
says-
I didn't know. Thank you.
Impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. No. Moving on to paragraph 3. Impacts on surface water. The The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. Yes. A, the proposed action may create a new water body. No. The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more of a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. No. The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland and water body. No. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. No. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. No. The proposed action may include construction of one or more intake for withdrawal of water from surface area. No. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater surface waters. No. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of storm water discharge that may lead to siltation or degradation of receiving water bodies. No. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. No. The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body. No. The proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. No. Impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. No. Paragraph 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. No.
We got yes.
Okay, what is?
We got a yes from them.
Are you looking at an older group?
Maybe. That's okay. No, I have it. What paragraph are we on now?
We got
Page 3 of 10.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Impact on flooding, yes.
Yes.
Okay. The proposed action may result in development in a designated floodway. No. The proposed action may result in development within 100-year floodplain. No. The proposed action may result in development within a 500-year floodplain. No. The proposed action may result in or require modification of existing drainage patterns. No. The proposed action may change floodwater flows that contribute to flooding. No. If there is a dam located on the site of the proposed action, is the dam in need of repair or upgrade? No. Number 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include state-regulated air emission source. No. Number 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. Yes. A, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site.
Small impact.
Small impact. The proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or federal government.
Small impact.
The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site.
Small impact.
The proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation, I can't say that word.
Degradation.
Of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government.
Small impact.
The proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect.
No.
The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community.
No.
The proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site.
Small impact.
The proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally or locally important habitat.
No.
Proposed action, commercial, industrial, or recreational projects only, involves the use of herbicides and pesticides.
No.
No. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources.
No.
No. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The use of land for the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
No.
No. Number 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
Yes.
Yes. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, architectural site, or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historic Places, or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for listing on the State Register of Historic Places.
No.
The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office SHPO Archaeological Site Inventory.
Small impact.
The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within and is substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on the New York State SHPO inventory.
Small impact.
So I don't really, paragraph E says if we answered anything moderate to large, which we did not. So I'm going to move on to 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of open space resources as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan.
No.
Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area.
No.
No. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems.
No.
No. Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. In fact, it's going to save energy. 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
Yes.
Yes. Proposed action may produce sound above noise level established by local regulation.
Small impact.
The proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home.
No.
The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day.
No.
The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties.
No.
The proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing lighting conditions.
No.
Impact on human health, number 16. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants.
Nope.
Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted or land use plans. No. Number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character.
No.
So that completes your review of part 2 for the wastewater treatment electrical upgrades. And then later during the common council meeting, you have a resolution relative to seeker.
Next on the agenda is the Glens water distribution system upgrades.
Yes.
And go to part two.
Yes, you're gonna go to part two. And this project, the description is, the proposed project is to upgrade potable water distribution piping in the city of Glens Falls. It's going to be increasing, the city distribution system has approximately 67 miles of water mains, of which 72 are unlined cast iron pipes installed prior to 1940. Again, this has been classified as a type 1 action. There has been a coordinated review. Documentation has been sent to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, New York State Department of Health, and SHPO. No one has suggested that they be lead agency and have found the Common Council to be appropriate as lead agency. So turning to part two, impact on land. The proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site.
Yes.
Yes. The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. The proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year in multiple phases.
This is that one. This is moderate or large.
Sorry, I mixed up, I told you. Okay. So that's a moderate impact.
Yeah.
And is this one gonna take longer than the year? Is that why? Thank you. The proposed action may result in the increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal.
No.
The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. Number two, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site.
No.
No. Number three, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies.
Yes.
Yes. The proposed action may create a new water body.
No.
The proposed action may result in increase or decrease of over 10% or more of a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. No. The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from wetland or water body. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. No. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. No. The proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal of water from surface water. No. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface waters. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. No. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the proposed action. No. The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body. No. The proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. No. Number four, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. No. Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. No. Number six, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. No. Impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. A, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or federal government that uses the site or are found on, over, or near the site. No. The proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. The proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government. The proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect. The proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community. No. The proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for a predominant species that occupy or use the project site. No. The proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally or locally important habitat. No. The proposed action, commercial, industrial, or recreational projects only involves the use of herbicides and pesticides. No. Number 8, impact on our agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. No. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and the scenic or aesthetic resource. No. Number 10, impact on historic or archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
Yes.
Yes.
Either no or yes. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Did you get the new one?
I would know as well.
I don't know.
Are you on Glens
I might be the
water
wrong one.
distribution system upgrade?
The blue,
I believe so.
that's all the water distribution upgrade.
Nope, I don't think one.
Page 6,
6 and 10 in
part
part
2.
2.
So that one is checked, yes.
Yep.
Are we all set?
Yep.
Okay. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, or district which is listed on the National or State Historic Register of Historical Places or has been determined by the Commissioner of New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for listing on the State Register of Historic Places. No. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, Archaeological Site Inventory. No. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on the New York SHPO inventory. No. Number 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. No. Impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. No. 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. No. Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Yes. A, the proposed action may produce sound above noise level established by local regulation. The proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home.
No.
The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day.
No.
The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties.
No.
The proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions.
No.
No. Number 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new and existing sources of contaminants.
No.
No. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans.
No.
No. 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character.
No.
With review of the part 2, the board will be declaring a type 1 that you reviewed the full environmental assessment form and issuing a negative declaration. And that's in the, and last but not least is Washington Street. Pink.
Pink.
Again, this has been classified as a type 1 action. It requires the full environmental assessment form, which has been completed by Arcadis, completed this, right? Thank you. We have elected for a coordinated review. The notices were sent to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, and New York State SHPO. We have heard back from all of them, or the time has run out, Jeremy?
Yeah, 30 days have passed,
So no one is asking to be lead agency. So moving on to part 2. Identification of potential project impacts. Number 1, impact on land. The proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site.
Yes.
Yes. A, the proposed action may involve construction on the land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of an existing ground surface. No. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. No. The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. Number 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. No. Number 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. No. Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in the development on land subject to flooding. No. Number 6, impact on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. Number 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna.
Yes.
A, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. The proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government. The proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. The proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat continent used by any species of special concern or conservation need as listed by New York State or the federal government.
No.
The proposed action may diminish the capacity of any registered national natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect. The proposed action may result in removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of the designated significant natural community. The proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the proposed site. No. The proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or other regionally or locally important habitat. No. The proposed action, commercial, industrial, or recreational project only, involves the use of herbicides or pesticides.
No.
Number 8, impact on our agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. No. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. No. Number 10, impact on historic or archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. No. 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. No. Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. No. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. No. Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Yes. The proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. The proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home. The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour a day. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. The proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. No. Number 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure. No. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. No. 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with existing community character. No. Based upon the designation as a type 1, the coordinated review, the full environmental assessment, the completion of part 2, the Common Council could accept lead agency and declare a negative declaration, which is included in your resolutions tonight.
We'll now move on to the agenda of the regular Glens Falls Common Council meeting. It's a little after 7:30, and we'll rise and let Councilman Lappin lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll open up our council meeting to public comments. Anybody from the public who'd like to address the common council, we ask that you come and identify yourself and tell us your address, please. Not seeing anyone, we'll move on to department head Jeff Flagg. I asked Jeff to come up and talk a little bit about DRI.
Good evening, everyone. Whoa. Okay, I'm going to give you one thing here, which you may have already seen, but just so you have something to reference as I'm talking. This is a sort of a version of the layout of South Street that was modified not too long ago, but just to give you some clarification about. So I wanted to update it by just where we were. The mayor had, as he mentioned, asked me to. It's been a little while since we had an update. And I also want to address a story that came out in the wake of the IDA and LDC meetings about a week and a half ago in the Post-Star, which was not inaccurate, but I think was probably maybe incomplete in some ways. There was no writers in attendance, so maybe they had seen it online or saw it later, so didn't have much to work with from there. Some of this you already know, but just for the record, to sort of keep you up to where we are, the city had come to a development agreement with Spring City Development, which is the development arm of Minaccio Construction. So we tend to say Minaccio, but if you hear me saying Spring City, that's the development arm. Back in April of last year. And the development agreement we had really had two parts, or two phases, which you can see there in different colors. Phase one was an agreement to purchase and rehab 3 different buildings, right? Hot Shots, the Incubator, 45 South and 36 Elm respectively, which are owned by the LDC, and Sandy's, which Spring City Development owns, still owns. As part of this, the city provided SCD, or Spring City, with a package of incentives that included DRI funding that was earmarked from the very beginning, when the DRI was initiated, some tax support, and the project also qualified for historic tax credits, which you get by applying to the state and feds. The cost at the time was somewhere in the vicinity of about $8.8 million. And just as a point of reference, and I'll talk about this later, the federal funds rate at that time was 0.5%. At the same time, the city also negotiated with Spring City, and they agreed to purchase and develop the market center lot, right? What we call the farmers market lot, that's city owned, and to build a multi-use, mixed income, roughly 70 unit apartment building with some commercial on the South Street side. Following planning board approval for both of those projects that didn't run quite simultaneously, more or less, SCD submitted an application to Homes and Community Renewal for a tax credit, which was necessary for the Phase 2 project to work. So really, at that point, well, let me back up a little bit. At the same time, the city was moving forward with the development, construction design at that point, of the market center, which is the sort of market and event center that we're working on right now, and I'll get to where we are updated with that in just a little bit. That's on the old Juice and Jar lot at 49 South, the Daily Double lot, the OTB, and that's using roughly $4.5 million, we expect, and we'll find out in a couple of days, of about a $6.2 million grant that really includes all these, Phase 1 and the market center, right? So you can sort of combine those two into one big project for which the DRI is providing about $6.2 million. Sidebar is that the city is also working and moving forward on 2 other DOS, Department of State, DRI grants. One is the streetscaping grant that we've selected a contractor for. I won't put Jeremy on the spot, but he could probably tell you we're getting ready to mobilize to do that, and that's the upgrades on South and, well, really Elm Street between South and Park Streets. And then there's a small grant to create a pocket park that had moved around a few times, but is probably going to end up in the vicinity of the market center lot. We're probably going to divide up part of it in where the Juice and Jar was, part around the property proper. So really, at this point, back about a year ago, there's really two things that are needed for this project, sort of as a whole, to move forward. Two tax credit issues, right? One is the HCR tax credits for phase 2, and the other is the historic tax credits for phase 1. The HCR, the housing tax credits are competitive, and they're very competitive. If you talk to someone like Judy Calogero, who's the commissioner of HCR, she'll tell you that, you know, it's a very competitive process, and we always anticipated that it might take a little while for this to happen, which is one of the reasons we had separated into 2 phases, right? We thought that we might cadence phase 1 with the building of the market center, and phase 2 might drag on a little bit longer. They applied last fall, did not get the tax credits in the first round, which we weren't shocked by. The bigger issue really was the historic tax credits, because what really happened was when you talk about these tax credits, you are eligible, and in this case, these projects, all 3 buildings were eligible for the tax credits because they're in a designated area, the 3 Squares Historic District. However, eligibility doesn't mean you get the tax credits. It means that you can negotiate with the state and the feds about what you need to do to get the tax credits. And so we helped. The 2 buildings on South Street had already been designated, and they were relatively simple to get through because they weren't making sort of fundamental changes to the buildings themselves. They were restaurants or bars with housing above. They're going to remain restaurants or bars with housing above. The big one was the incubator, which of course has been vacant for 20-something years, a long time. As they went back and forth negotiating, they would make suggestions about what they'd like to do. The state and or feds would come back with what they wanted them to do. They would go back and get a response and say, no, that's not acceptable, we need you to do this. They'd say, how would you do this? Each time you did this, my understanding at least is that in the case of the Park Service, they have 60 days to respond to each submission. So this happens for maybe 5 times. Each of those is a 2-month period essentially, and that's assuming you got back to them the next day. So this sort of drags on a little while, and while this is all going on, right, interest rates are climbing. There have been, since they signed the agreement, there have been 10 interest rate increases. Right? The Fed's funds rate went from 5.5% to about 5.25% is what it is right now. Now they paused. So essentially what happened is that they have found it difficult, let's just use that term, they found it difficult to move forward on phase 1 by itself because the costs have simply gone, not only the costs of materials, which have gone up with inflation in the last year, the cost of interest rate increases in the last year, and the cost of compliance, and the cost of materials that the compliance would require, by the way, right? So all these things have made what was probably I don't want to call it a marginal project, but a project that is not going to be, was never designed to be a cash cow for them in the first place, has made it very difficult. And so what they're seeking to do is to, in essence, at least unofficially, sort of tie these 2 phases back together, right? The phase 1 and phase 2. And the challenge that we have right now is that requires them to then resubmit, and that's a process that could go probably through to maybe the end of the year, if not a little bit longer. So what we're really trying to do at this point then is to get them moving on phase 1, and incidentally, they have not asked us for anything else. Right? It's not like they're coming back and sort of holding out and saying, you need to give us a bunch of money or you need to do. They've said it's really, you know, the circumstances what they are. You know, we've got the historic tax credit settled. We really just think that the law of big numbers says that we really need these 2 projects together. Incidentally, the phase 2 project is about a $26 million project. And of course, that one really, for both their purposes and the cities to some extent, really requires this affordable housing component, which requires this sort of difficult tax credit to get. So that's sort of where we are at the moment, and the real negotiations we've been doing, the mayor and a small team that he's assembled, is to really sort of go back with them and sit down and say, listen, first of all, we need to move forward, right? We're moving forward, incidentally, as I mentioned. We're getting pricing back on Thursday. We got bids in. We have a few dozen contractors that have at least requested the bid package. So we're gonna be getting bids back. Hopefully, those will fall within the range. We got estimates before we did this, so we're pretty comfortable with that, that the bids will be in the range of what we're looking at. And then what we need to do, and this is, partly to appease the Department of State, right, who oversees the entire DRI and is really anxious for this project to move forward, as I'm sure all of you are, as I am. There's nobody in the city I can think that doesn't want this to move forward. I think the only entity that is really against this moving forward is the Federal Reserve, who has done everything they could over the last year and a half to stop projects. That's what interest rate increases are designed to do, to slow down economic growth. And so, the old saying is, in investing is you don't fight the Fed. But the fact of the matter is, we think there's still a path forward, but we're just in a situation where, the real linchpin in many ways, to be totally frank, is the HDR tax credits. But I think we can get them moving forward on phase one in anticipation of that. So now that's a head full to try and sort of digest in just a few minutes, but I wanted to sort of summarize and truncate where we are, and then if you had any questions, see if I could address them.
Jeff, before they ask any questions, I just want you to, what concerned me is that the article said that the interest rates had stopped the project. It's not true. I mean, I appreciate that he listened to our conversation about how we want Spring City to move forward in phase one. We don't want them to wait. They're saying, look, it's safer for us to wait till we hear about the next tax rates. And fair enough, they want to be safe, but they're not moving away. We're not moving away. The state is very happy with where we are. We're about to go out to bid on the project, but again, would you clarify that? Because that's what it sounded like.
Yes.
Like we're not doing anything, or not, like.
Correct.
The interest rates have not stopped anything from happening. We just haven't got them to start on phase one yet.
Well, that's not entirely untrue. I mean, it is true in the interest rates. You don't have to be a genius to know that if interest rates go from 0.5% to 5.25%, that it's going to slow down, or it forces you to refigure how the project works, how the numbers work. They have no intention of stepping away from this. We keep going back and forth and saying, are there things we could do at the edges to sort of move forward with phase one? You have to keep in mind that we sort of recognized from the very beginning that phase two would take a while, right? That was never, the idea of sort of having to submit the application to the housing credit 2 or maybe 3 times was always sort of a consideration. So yes, I mean the interest rate increases is not what's keeping them from moving, but if you combine all these things at once, right? I mean, you could use all sorts of different things that are happening. As I said, I would say that there's the sort of the triple whammy at the moment, right? The historic tax credit compliance costs, the material costs, and the interest rate increases, right, have all been an impact. I mean, and so when you look at the numbers in April of 22, and you look at the numbers in July of 23, whatever margin you had to make this work goes interest rate, interest rate, interest rate. So yes, you're sort of compressing your, the viability of the project, but they're not in any way sort of dissuaded from moving forward with the project, I guess, is to answer your question as best I could.
And they received all their zoning board and planning board approvals last summer.
Correct, right.
In fact, both of the phases was a type 1, it required full environmental assessment, and I think it was last August they got their final approvals for everything.
Correct.
And it was also a coordinated review with 11 different agencies.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there's nothing from that perspective stopping them. There's nothing at the city's end that we either could do or are being asked to do, right? So I mean, that's really, as I say, they have not come to us and said, if only you would give us more money, we'll make it work. If only you would, extend the tax benefits, we could make this work. They're simply saying, we think that the best path forward for us is to combine these 2 projects into one large project. And, to the extent that it matters greatly to certainly the DOS that phase 1 moves, right? Remember, at this point, phase 2 doesn't have any DRI money. It's being sort of leveraged, if you will, by the DRI, but it's not being directly funded at this point. So that's really something that we're trying to sort of figure out, how do we get them moving forward, especially to the extent that we are now getting ready, right, pending the bids that are coming in on Thursday, to mobilize for the market center. And so I think one of the issues, and I know the mayor is concerned about this too, is that we don't have a market center constructed with, I don't want to call it a war zone to anybody who has a business down there, but you're surrounded by businesses or structures that are not complementary to the facility we're building. So we're really trying to get them, at the very least, can they begin work on things, and as they sort of find out later this year. And we're optimistic. The team we have together, the mayor's put together, is really looking to put together, let's call it a very robust, viable HCR tax credit application. And I should say, if they, and again, this is somewhat informal in conversations, I don't have anything in writing, but there's nothing to stop them if they were to find out about the tax credit project, right, which would invariably take somewhat longer anyway to build an entire new building. They could begin immediately on, right, there's nothing, as Karen said, there's nothing stopping them from moving forward, at least from the city's perspective.
Jeff?
Oh, sorry.
So they're in agreement to tie the two phases back together?
They are desirous to tie the two phases back together.
And in the first round of housing tax credits, they didn't get any.
Correct.
Correct. And this resubmission for tax credits are for what, 9% tax credits?
Correct.
And that application is due when?
The next round has not been released yet, but it comes very quickly from the time from announcement to application. But I think we could probably figure from announcement of the opening of the grant to the announcement of the tax credit winners, you're probably looking at 6 months. So we're probably looking, if they said something tomorrow, we're looking at the beginning of next year.
If they don't get the 9% tax credits, which, as you just said, could be 6 months out, and I would think that interest rates aren't going to be lower in 6 months, is it a deal killer?
I think what we need to do is we need to develop right now. The city is in the process of trying to develop Plan B, right? You have to keep in mind that they have a decent amount of money already invested in this. The HCR application is very expensive. They've put money into compliance. They hired a consultant to do the compliance. They've done some work on all these. They've owned Sandy's for several years and been paying taxes on a building that is sitting there empty. So obviously they have skin in the game. People say, well, they can just walk away. Of course, I guess massive corporations, not massive, but big construction companies could probably walk away. They can afford to, but they have no interest or desire. It's not in their interest to do that. So what we need to do now is we need to come up with a contingency plan, and they're happy to work with us on that. They realize that
Contingency on phase 2, right? If they don't get
well, right. If they don't get the tax credits on phase 2, where does that put phase 1? I think it would probably be fair to say that all the council members here are not getting yelled at or screamed at by the constituents about the pavilion lot, the farmer's market lot not being developed into housing. We need it, but that's not what people are complaining about, right? They're complaining about phase 1, if you will. And quite frankly, that's where the state is anxious to move forward. I guess if they were anxious enough as a state to move forward with phase 2, they could enable it immediately, right? So that's what we really need to develop right now.
And we're helping them write the column, we call it the governor. We're asking every representative we can to write letters of support, and we're using the expert, Judy, to help make sure we get the best application.
Yeah, I think we are, and perhaps, we were all somewhat new at this with the exception of Judy, and she wasn't really involved in this process directly. I think there are tactics that one must employ when you get to these kinds of projects that heretofore we probably didn't do well enough. And keep in mind that this is also, although we always, we look up here at Bonaccio/Spring City as being a large regional developer, in the greater scheme of things at a state level, they're somewhat small too. So they're learning, we're learning. There's nothing from any angle we've seen that would dissuade us from thinking that phase 2 is not a viable project. I think, you also have to keep in mind, by the way, in the post-COVID world, that housing, especially affordable housing, is also a crush in the state and a huge priority for the governor. And so I'm sure there are developers all over the place that are looking for these projects. They scored fairly well. We have to find out. I think there were some gaps in their application, at least from talking to Judy and a few others.
So the incubator building has been empty for about 20 years. Isn't that precisely the kind of thing that the Empire State funding is supposed to, Empire State Development funding is supposed to be able to address?
It is, and actually, well, from that perspective, the money that's going to the DRI money, which is ESD money, even though we use DOS as the umbrella organization, but the grant that's funding the Market Center in phase 1 is ESD money. The bulk of that, quite frankly, is probably designed to subsidize, of the 2 buildings, subsidize the incubator. So of the 1.2 million, they haven't broken it down quite that way, but my guess is the vast majority of that investment is going toward to stabilize and
It
restore.
just seems like that we've pursued an application of in excess of $1 million for a place that's been kind of in use over on Maple Street, and that this is one that has not been in use for 20 years.
You're thinking of the Restore grant?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Restore New York grant, which is right, you're absolutely right. The problem with that is that that site, if you look on the map there, that site has a Restore grant on it. Ed Bartholomew after the DRI, got a $750,000 Restore grant to tear down the OTB and the juicing jar and to stabilize the incubator and hot shots. That grant has not closed yet because that grant is dependent on completing this project. So you're absolutely right that Restore would be a perfect pot for this, but we've already been to that facility. Excuse that strange metaphor.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I know this is like a very complicated project. So it sounds like you're saying that Bonaccio would prefer to not start phase 1 until the phase 2 tax credits are approved. So one of the barriers is those low-income housing tax credits, which you said it's not unusual to have to apply multiple times. And we've applied once and missed it, and it's 6 months away, and we're not sure we would get that, right? And then another barrier is interest rates, and another barrier are construction or material costs, right? So I guess what I'm confused about is, I think we all have read about interest rates and material supply chain issues and all of that stuff, but Bonaccio, I believe, is going forward with projects in other communities to the north and to the south of us. So why are those issues that are global affecting everybody
Sure.
stalling the Glens Falls project?
3 projects that they're in the news about. One is Screw Lake. The other is the old Longfellows, which is out near, and then there's a third one, which is, I think, a glass building or something. I asked Larry Novak that very same question, and you have to keep in mind, and I'll try and put this in terms that won't violate any confidentiality he told me, so he didn't say there was, but they received a substantial grant from ESD for the Screw Lake project. Substantial. I think it's some. Yeah, they also have partners who are sort of underwriting a lot of the cost of that.
Chris Foley Brothers, I don't know if they're equal partner, but they're partners.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's self-funding, so they're not looking at investors, which of course drives a lot of these things. It's, in many cases, it's what are your investors going to get back from these? There is going to be an initial investor, at least in phase 1. Certainly there will be in phase 2. But and my understanding again was that they managed to secure for the Longfellows, whatever it's now called, a very good interest rate. They locked in a very good interest rate before they started construction on that. Partly because they sort of knew what they were in for, right? This is a project, you have to keep in mind, this is a project that you buy and you start, right? There's all sorts of things that are keeping them from moving forward with our project. Not least of which is they want to make sure that the city's moving forward with this grant-funded project, right? So, I mean, the time frame, there are circumstances, I know somebody says, they're moving, why are they just, there's a lot of variables, there are a lot of unknowns. You're talking about 3 fairly small buildings versus 3 resorts. By the way, there's quite a few things that are going on in Saratoga right now.
It's also a different type of project.
I mean, it doesn't,
Spring Lake and Saratoga, they're entering into the hospitality industry. That is not what this is. This is construction and development. They are holding on to Spring Lake and Longfellows. They're now branching into the hospitality industry.
Yeah, and the third project, just as a point of reference, is it's like the glass building they're doing, and essentially he said, there was something in the news, he said, we're in the same spot with that as we are with yours. There was an announcement that we're suddenly gonna start doing some work on that. That's not forthcoming. So I suppose we might have an argument if a year from now, that project is done and ours is still awaiting
I mean, I
development.
don't think it's an unreasonable question, because you had the same.
No, not at all. I don't think it's an unreasonable question at all.
But my second question, I guess, is I want to understand how phase 2 will leverage phase 1. What is the logic, so I can understand?
Two things.
Okay.
Scale economics, right? A $36 million project is much easier to construct, right? You have all the people on site, you have all the workers, you're basically combining the work into one work site. That's probably the biggest one, at least in the short term. And then to hear them talk, I mean, quite frankly, we're going to get the numbers from them for their application, but it's a much more lucrative project. I mean, the construction, the returns, and so essentially what their position is that we're subsidizing phase 1 with phase 2.
With what part of it?
The operations and income.
Are they allowed to use the income from
No.
that they get from the tax credit projects to look towards the other costs? I don't think they.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, there's none of the grant money is assigned to phase 2 at all, but they're saying, you know what, we would have made some good money, marginal money on phase 1. And now with the interest rates and the fact that SHPO, and we're not gonna make as much, so it might be a break even for us. We might lose a little, we might make a lot. But this 9% tax rate on phase 2 really makes this whole project, and we'd like to put it together. And another reason, and your questions are very good, another reason that they might be doing this is because they know the state's watching too. Everybody wants the DRI, including the Department of State, to move forward. And if they say, well, you know, we really need the 9% tax credits to make this whole thing work, they know that we're saying to the state, what do we got to do? And so it's kind of a way to be more likely to get the tax.
And it's also true that they're thinking the same thing that I was mentioning before about the market center, right? If they get the tax credits, they can't justifiably have 3 buildings that they have potential site control over that are sitting there fallow and abandoned and vacant. One in which they're going to design a building essentially to wrap around in the case of Sandy's.
I don't want to hog the time if other people have questions. But I guess another thought I had is, so the marketplace center is connected to 36 homes.
Not physically, but spatially, yeah.
It's part of the idea is to have them. So wouldn't we want those 2 things to happen at the same time rather than wait?
Yes.
Okay, so, but they want to wait until they.
Yes.
So what are we going, okay, I guess I back to Councilman Landry's question, what if we don't get this second round?
No, and that is and I don't want to say I have the answer to that
Not
yet.
us.
We're going to do, yeah, well, it is in some ways. It's the LDC, it's the IDA, it's the city, it's the developer. You know, it's other people who are trying to do things on South Street. You know, I mean, there's at 58 South, there's developers who are trying to restore some buildings down there. There's development that we've supported through the DRI and elsewhere that's on South Street that really needs these things to move forward. So, yes, we're all on the same page as far as, you know, I think we realize that we need to move forward. And this is what the state has really made very clear. We need to have progress. Now, the market center, there's nothing keeping us pending what we might get back on Thursday. But we need progress. And I use we as the royal we, because I think that's both the state, that's the city, that's the residents, it's all, so I think that's what we're gonna sort of work toward here in the next few months. Anybody else? Well, I should mention, if any of you have questions that you want to sort of dig into, I trust you know where to find me, and I'm happy to sit down with anybody for as long as it takes, so you can have my level of misunderstanding. No, I'm just joking. It's shade, the ground's always moving, and I mean, this is the dilemma we have, is that, you know,
One thing that I'd like to see though is, I mean, Karen had said that the planning, had been completed in the, site plan
Last summer.
review and everything since August of last year. We had some, reach out to the community in September of last year, and then we really haven't gotten back to the community since then.
yeah, you make a very good point. Part of the reason for that, I suppose, is that nothing's happened, right? I guess that's pretty self-evident to people, but maybe some.
I mean, there's things that have been happening if we're going out.
No, I mean, there's nothing, people go to South Street and say, nothing's happening. But you're right, and
But we haven't been saying, it's above and beyond what's happening or not happening on South Street. We haven't been addressing the public to say, these are things that are happening, even though there's some things that are moving through different places, and, there's some, actions happening. We're not describing that back to our constituents.
fair enough. Yeah, we should do a better job of that. I totally agree with you.
Although Market Center just got their approvals about.
Correct, and we'll have a, well,
I mean,
yeah,
that was all public hearing when they came in before planning board for the Market Center itself.
Jeff, we're meeting with Venatio too, and as soon as Larry gets back from vacation. And we'll also have the bids in for the Market Center in this week, right? Tomorrow, is it?
correct, Thursday.
Thursday. So, I mean, would you come back and, next
Sure.
council meeting or after, share the results of that? We ought to have, at that point, when we, get ready and award the bid, maybe we'll have a potential groundbreaking date. We could give an update both to the council and to the community, and it's really be a good thing.
Yeah, assuming we don't have any terrible surprises on Thursday, it might be worthwhile to sort of plan some of these things so we can keep the public going on what's happening and why other things aren't.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
I'll add like one thing that you said that I hadn't heard before was the pocket park on 49 South Street. That was the first time I've heard it, and I just told you that.
That's that small lot that was actually going to be sold to Spring City, and they want to keep it empty and put it in a park. That was on planning board approval. Right, that was, is that Houston yard that got knocked down?
Yep. And so in the area behind the Market Center,
Yeah.
we've got, it's all right, we'll get the update from you when we're ready, yeah. Committee reports, Councilman Donahue.
We did. The Sustainability Committee had a get together with the New York Power Authority, and obviously I'm not going to read all this stuff. We're talking about 41 plus pages, but they said the city, that's about city landfill, the Western landfill site is at City of Glens Falls, that is located within the town of Queensbury. The successful proposer will be required to comply with all environmental site control requirements regulated by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Additionally, New York Power Authority anticipates that successful bidder will be required to comply with site management order from New York State DEC and outlining roles and responsibilities regarding city management, the landfill least the way I read it, the solar panels going up on the western landfill site. Two more items here. This is the site with Glens landfill, and the site is currently listed in the registry as inactive hazardous waste disposal site. And based upon the results of the remedial investigation, feasibility study, RI/FS on the site department, we selected a remedy for the site that was consistent for the installation of modified Part 360 covered system to minimize the production of leach tape to eliminate the surface. The site plan was finalized in June 16, 2023, and they issued the ROD in March 2003. So it looks like we don't have a problem with that. And I haven't heard anything on the Luzerne site, the eastern landfill site, which is owned by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and adjacent to the Glens City landfill. The successful proposer will be required to comply with all environmental site control requirements regulated by New York State EEC. NIPA anticipates that the successful bidder will be required to comply with a site management order from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, outlining the roles, responsibilities regarding the management of a landfill site and during the construction and operation of the project. Development of the project will require maintenance of upper areas, sealing, and all that good stuff. We got, I think, we're on our way getting some solar panels up and running. They're pretty, as I said, this 12 plus pages, they're pretty intense on what you can do and not do. So the person who's going to be doing the project has to adhere to all the regulations that NIPA and DEC have. That's all I have for you right now.
Thank you. Councilman Landry, committee report.
No report.
Councilwoman Palmer, committee report.
We didn't meet, but I did want to follow up. For building and codes, we had been working on a noise ordinance, and I think I last reported to you that we thought we could go forward with that despite not being fully staffed with building and codes, because we think the police department will be the enforcing agency. But I think at this point, we're waiting for a review of the draft. Is that right? Or
I have the draft.
are you
I'll review it.
Okay. I did check in with Chief Smith, and he was comfortable with us moving forward, meeting to talk about it. So we just need that, and then I'll call a meeting.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lappin.
There'll be a meeting of the Technology Committee at 11 a.m. on August 1st. We're still talking about cameras for one thing, and there's other things on the agenda out later this week. And then that's at 11 a.m. And then at 7 p.m. we'll have a meeting of the Climate Smarts Community Task Force. That's that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Goodman, committee report.
Just that the special projects will be meeting on Tuesday the 1st at 2 o'clock.
Maybe in 1 second. That might sound Wednesday.
It's Tuesday.
Oh, okay, so I should say the August 2nd.
August 2nd.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Let's see. Then next up is voice vote. It's just number one, voice vote of resolution to approve the minutes of the July 11, 2023 meeting of the Glens Falls Common Council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Under roll call vote, are there any roll call items the council would like me to pull?
I would like to pull resolutions 2 through 8 for discussion.
Any others the council would like to pull for discussion? Not hearing any, we'll go to, roll call vote on number 9. Let's see, I just wanna make sure I'm not missing. Number 9, resolution of the water and sewers approval, create a sewer fund capital project.
You know what, it's 2 through 7, not 2 through
2 through 7.
8. Sorry about that.
John? Let me go back and start with number 8. Resolution to declare the city of Glens Falls as the lead agency and approve the seeker negative declaration determining of non-significance in regard to the Washington Street and East Washington Street infiltration reduction project. 9 is a resolution with the Water and Sewer Board's approval to create a water and sewer capital fund project for the Washington Street and East Washington Street inflow and infiltration reduction project in the amount of $2,936,000. 10 is a resolution authorizing the issuance of $3,500,000 bond by the city of Glens Falls to pay costs of Washington Street and East Washington Street inflow and infiltration reduction project. 11 is a resolution to approve the city of Glens Falls Community Development manual payments in the amount of $102,594.38. 12 is a resolution to approve the grant for the case file 2021-HB-003 in accordance with the City of Glens Falls 80K Gateway Home Ownership Program in the amount not to exceed $24,000. 13 is a resolution to authorize the controller to increase the sewer fund revenue line G1099901-5031 interfund transfer by $35,222 and increase water sewer fund expense line G78130-4400 contracted services by $35,222 to fund the city's portion of the Barton and Judith study on present and future biosolids disposal needs. 14 is a resolution to approve an encroachment permit for C&M Weber Holdings, owner of 52 Glens Street, Glens Falls, to install a security gate to prevent unauthorized access to the parking lot behind 56 Glens Street. The gate will be installed approximately 34 feet back from Glens Street and would not be a permanent fixture and can be removed within 5 days' notice from the city of Glens Falls. 15 is a resolution to approve encroachment permit for World Awareness Children's Museum, 89 Warren Street, Glens Falls, New York, for placement of a sandwich board on the sidewalk in front of 89 Warren Street from July 31st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 in compliance with pro-rata regulations and public access on the sidewalk. 16 is a resolution to retroactively approve an encroachment permit as approved by Mayor Collins on July 8th for the utility construction specialist 15 St. Agnes Highway, College, New York, to excavate a trench in the Ridge Street parking lot, 42 Ridge Street, Glens Falls, to Ridge Street south to Glens Falls to place the switchgear manhole in the rear of the parking lot from July 17, 2023 through August 11, 2023, following the city engineer's general requirement. 17 is a resolution to approve the mobile food unit license application from Christine Stevenson, DBA Cruise and Kitchen, 51 Stevenson Way, Fort Ann, for a 2023 seasonal 6-month mobile food license from July 26th through December 31st, 2023, to operate in the city of Glens Falls. 18 is a resolution to authorize the controller to increase general fund revenue line A009999-3501 chips by $1,500,000, increase general fund expense line A45114-4479 by $1,500,000 to reflect monies the city will be receiving from chips for paving and sidewalk work. 19 is a resolution increasing the request from the city match from $150,000 to $175,000 to be proposed for the application for the Smart Road Program Community Planning and Zoning Grant Program, and that which Mayor and Council pledge a $25,000 match, which is 15% of the total cost, toward the project as specified in the grant application should the application be successful. 20 is a resolution to award rebid CGF 23-01 Coaster Associates, Inc. in a total amount of $120,000 plus interest of 4% for 36 months to replace 3 submersible pumps at the wastewater treatment, to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract approved by the city attorney, contingent on approval by the Water and Sewer Board, August 9, 2023. 21 is a resolution to authorize the controller to increase source of supply capital improvements F78320-2600 by $60,000 and decrease the water fund balance by $60,000 to replace a non-working boiler at wastewater treatment as approved by the council resolution number 267. 22 is a resolution to increase revenue line A00999-4089 government fund ARPA by $27,840 and increase expense line A67210-4362 lumber wood products by $27,840 to pay for the lumber being used to rehab the bleachers at Eastfield Stadium. 23 is a resolution to authorize the controller to decrease expense line 67020-1000 by $4,000, increase expense line 67020-1100 by personal services overtime by $4,000 to pay overtime wages for city lifeguards. 24 is a resolution to approve encroachment permit for Mark Levac, 23 Park Street, Glens Falls, to block off on a section of sidewalk in front of the building on Elm Street for placement of a lift for siding from July 26, 2023 through August 31st, 2023, with the understanding that the area is to be cordoned off and allowed for pedestrian access on the sidewalk according to borough regulations. 25 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Do we have a motion for a roll call vote? Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Landy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Klein?
Yes.
Councilman Marco?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Whitman?
Yes.
Great. So now we'll go back to resolutions 2 through 7 for discussion. Councilman Marco?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I've had contacts with some of my constituents who had some concerns about bonding out. We're looking at 46 million between these two, yeah, between these two, because I didn't put 8, 9, and 10. So it's 2. It's the resolution for the issuance of 32 million in bonds for water distribution systems, and then bonds for the 14 million. I think they're all related to that, etc. Yeah, and I'm not saying that any of this is not work that needs to be done, but I would want to have more public feedback first before we do it. So I'm just asking to table it for 2 weeks.
Well, if we table it for 2 weeks, it won't go on the CFA. That's why we talked about it we talked about it 2 weeks ago. And these resolutions, these bond resolutions, we're not taking any bonds out at all. What it does, it allows us to put them on the CFA, which to say that we passed a bond resolution says that we're ready to borrow money if we get these grants and we decide to move forward. So you will have full control. So let's give a silly example. Let's go ahead.
Question.
Sure.
If we're looking to bond, if we get, a grant, wouldn't we bond to the amount that we would want to the grant to cover? So if we're looking for a grant for like $10 million, but we got 32 million that we're looking to bond, wouldn't we bond 22 million instead?
You would actually bond 22 million, but you pass a bond resolution so that you can list, if I understand it right, please speak up if I have this wrong. you pass a bond resolution, doesn't do anything, but it has to be recorded on the CFA application. So now let's say the CFA application, let's use the big one just for an example. It's $30 million for the capital fund project water distribution. That would be the total cost over a multiple year, 10-year project. But if you only get, let's say $5 million, you only get $5 million, we would probably not, we would not move forward with it. We'd come back to the council, we'd say we only got $5 million, and we didn't, let's say the money that we also, remember, we have $10 million right now earmarked, $5 million from Senator Schumer and $5 million from Senator Gillibrand. So let's say those disappeared though, and they didn't make it. We don't have to do anything. We could say, you know what, we can't afford to borrow $25 million for this. We won't move forward, and we never took the bond out. We never borrowed any money. We didn't do anything. We just wouldn't move forward. Fair enough, sir?
Yeah.
But if we do get the $5 million, let's say from Senator Schumer, and we get $5 million from Senator Gillibrand, and we get $5 million from that, you may then, what it would do is, first the Water and Sewer Board would say, make a recommendation, and then we would approve it or not. So you might end up with, say, $15 million. You still might think, and so would I, right? $15 million is a lot of money. We're not. But we'd make that decision at that time, whether we think it's worth it or not. Dan, Jeremy, go ahead, please.
And if grant amount came in for less than we were hoping, we would reevaluate the scope of the project. We would probably cut it down to a manageable size where, that would be such a big financial ask. And just to follow up on your point about the congressional directed spending request, the bond resolutions also put us on the IUP, the intended use plan. No, any project to be eligible for congressional money, we've got to be on the IUP. So it's again, I totally understand.
Great question, because that's what we asked. We're definitely not borrowing $43 million.
Yep, you have 46 million.
46, yeah, all right, fair enough.
There were some other questions that I had just for, and I just want to read this to get this in record, that I asked for to Suzanne Case, that she's the city controller. How much are we currently bonding? And she responded that we have a $7 million bond anticipation note outstanding for the DRI project. Do we have any debt that we are retiring soon? The last payment this year for a $495,000 water treatment bond for the water fund, the ESCO recreation lease will mature in 2024, and that's $36,672. ESCO 2 is $216,298, will mature in 2025, and ESCO 1, $894,108 will mature in 2026 for the sewer fund. I said, what is our annual bond payment now? And the general fund in CB this year is $1,323,544, and the water fund is $1,367,478, or $478. And for the sewer fund, it's $2,178,624 for a total of $4,869,646. At this time, what would be the new payment with bonds in place? It's not known because we don't know what the interest rate will be or how much that we're bonding. What's the benefit to committing to bonds now for state revolving fund financing and a non-EFC loan? All applicants must adopt a bond resolution, but then you're also saying this is time sensitive because of the consolidated funding application. What's the city's current bond rating? A+ with stable outlook. How does the bond market look to be evolving? And Suzanne said after one of the worst bond markets in 2022, the bond market indicates a positive view for 2023, but the city will pursue low SFR, low interest, and 0% interest loans. So I just wanted to respond to that because of the constituents. And so that pretty much answers my questions.
Any other questions about 2 through 7? roll call vote for resolutions 2 through 7.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
You want me to go?
Oh, I should read them, sorry, I apologize. Resolution 2 is to declare the city of Glens Falls as lead agency and approve the seeker negative declaration determination of non-significance in regard to the wastewater treatment plant electrical upgrades. 3 is a resolution with the Water and Sewer Board's approval to create a water and sewer fund capital project for wastewater treatment plant electrical system upgrade in the amount of $13,616,000. 4 is a resolution to authorize the issuance of $14 million bonds in City of Glens Falls to be reduced by grants to pay for the cost of electrical upgrades for the wastewater treatment plant. 5 is a resolution to declare the City of Glens Falls as lead agency and approve the seeker negative declaration determination of non-significance in regard to the water distribution system upgrades project. 6 is a resolution with the Water and Sewer Board's approval to create a water sewer fund capital project for the water distribution system upgrades in the amount of $30,426,200. 7 is a resolution to authorize the issuance of $32 million bonds in the City of Glens Falls, New York, to be reduced by grants to pay the cost of the water distribution system upgrades. Do we have, I think we already have a motion. I think we should go to a second. We'll go to roll call vote, please.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilman Landry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Michael?
Yes.
Councilwoman Glidden?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Old business, Councilman Dunn,
Nothing this time.
Councilman Landry.
Thank you, Mayor. With all the discussion tonight about our aging water and sewer system, I ask that all residents abide by our request to tag lawn and property debris before you place it in the street. Leaves, dirt, branches, and the like place undue stress on our combined sewer system and increase the cost of processing in our sewage treatment. This being said, I request that the mayor again ask DPW to actively address this problem as it occurs. We've experienced many damaging storms in the last 30 days, and our street debris needs attention. As a side to that, I noticed with interest that the city of Saratoga, in coordination with one of their homeless providers, is providing work and training to homeless individuals in necessary public work projects. I know that DPW is stretched in the summer with all the road and sidewalk work we have going on and vacations. But part-time help, mowing parks, for instance, may be an option to free up staff for important work like street maintenance. Not in the budget now, but we should discuss that next year.
Thank you. Councilwoman Thomas.
I have no old business.
Councilman Lapp.
I have no.
Councilwoman Gooden, old business.
I'm not the same.
New business, Councilman Donnie.
Nothing this time.
Councilman Landry.
Thank you. A family tragedy unfolded in one of our community neighborhoods last week. It was both chilling and sad. A multiple shooting event that occurred right on the Glens Falls Queensbury city line brought out a swift public safety response from police, fire, and EMS personnel throughout the region. In a discussion I had with our police chief and former fire chief, our fire department was the first agency on the scene for an event that none of them had ever experienced before. Their training and professionalism that day saved 3 lives. Our EMS firefighters immediately assessed the scene and deployed life-saving mass shooting equipment that is on all of our ambulances, something I didn't know. These items are what bigger city fire departments and EMS providers have on their ambulances, primarily for mass shootings such as school shootings. They also mentioned with the victims they treated, including time with med-flight nurses. My hats off to our fire department for going above and beyond the call of duty, exercising their training and knowledge, and presenting a sad family tragedy becoming much, much worse. I would like to thank them for their actions that day. At a future council meeting, I will bring forward a resolution for a unit citation for those firemen who were there and were most needed. I'd also like to report that the Citizen Committee looking into the development of a possible educational environmental park at the former Glens Swim and Tennis Club property on East Sanford Street recently met and reviewed preliminary site evaluations of the property. They have also scheduled a meeting with Assemblywoman Warren and Assemblyman Simpson to introduce this potential project and solicit their support for future state funding streams for such a project. It is rewarding to see such a project moving forward, as the addition of such park will only enhance our park and recreation offerings in the city. Thank you.
New business, Councilwoman Vaughn.
We have no new business.
Councilman Levin.
Yeah, I have one bit of new business. This is following up a suggestion that the city attorney had about what to do in terms of when the mayor and the councilor at large are not available. And to my understanding, well, we had a situation where the mayor had sent through the assistant to the mayor, Chip McTurnan, that the mayor was going to be out and had assigned somebody to be acting mayor during that absence because both he and the councilman at large were to be out. And then looking back, previous year, the mayor had gone and told the council members beforehand and said that after talking with everybody that this person had agreed to be acting mayor from that time, and had a few questions about that with regard to the park and then in the charter that says that the charter that says that when the mayor and the councilor at large, well, when the mayor is not available, then the councilor at large is to act as mayor in his absence. And when both the mayor and the councilor at large are not available, then the council is to select somebody. One question is consulting by text messages and email a violation of the state's open government laws.
We weren't voting on it, it was just a suggestion and looking for a consensus, and then in the event.
I'm just asking if we were to have somebody selected not in a council meeting.
You cannot select by email. That must be done in public. So the email was sent out soliciting or making a suggestion of someone looking for consensus. What would have happened if the mayor and both councilmen at large were absent is when the common council was called to order. Well, the common council would make a motion at the very beginning to appoint someone to act as the acting mayor to preside over the meeting. Then it would have been voted on during the council. You cannot vote via email. That must be done in public. An email looking for suggestions or consensus is okay, if it's not private.
It shouldn't, I mean, if there's a meeting, I believe that if there's a meeting of like a committee meeting and there's enough people there to be to be considered a quorum, that needs to be open to the public. Is that not the case?
That's true.
So
Sending an email to all councilmen is not creating a meeting. That means that you're not gonna send any emails to everyone, because now you've created a quorum on every question or issue or every email that's sent out.
it seems to me that you had suggested that there needed to be a law to address
What
this
I
issue.
suggested is that maybe at the beginning of the year, the organizational meeting, you somehow pass a resolution at that time on how to deal with this if it comes up during the year. You could pass a resolution at your
Couldn't we pass that
organizational-
resolution at any time?
You could, yes.
So why would it be at the organizational
Because I
meeting?
just thought it made sense to pass it at the beginning of the year at the organizational meeting. You can pass it
I
whenever
believe we even had an organizational meeting this year.
Well, you do typically, the first meeting of the year.
We
The
assign
organizational
post-
meeting where you assign postcards to the official newspaper, you appoint certain officials that need to be appointed.
We're on January 1st.
Yeah, I wasn't at the one in 2022 because I had COVID at that time. I don't believe we had one on January 1st this year.
Well, we certainly could have it done, we could do it at any time. I appreciate the concern, Councilman, I do. I will be glad to, I appreciate you bringing it forward. Mayor Diamond, you know, when Mayor Diamond quite often, once a year, went on vacation, and his vacation partner was his wife, and he went with Mayor Hall, went to Maine, so we would find out that Mayor Hall had named Jane Reed the acting mayor, but I gotta be honest, I never looked at it, so I don't disagree with your thing. I will not make any more suggestions. Again, now that you've raised this awareness, we can do it any way you or anybody else would like to. Certainly, it says that the council will choose. And I will make sure that if I'm out of town again and Councilman Clark is out of town again, you have my assurance that I will do it any way you wish. I'll always know in advance. This particular vacation was not properly planned. But what I can do is, if I know there's going to be a conflict, I won't mention it to anybody. I'll bring it up in a council meeting and let you all decide, or let you choose. Let you choose somebody and do it by council meeting.
It may not just be for vacations, if you were ill, if both of you were ill.
Good point. Unavailable,
Right.
because it's another unavailable. So I'd be happy to do that moving forward. I appreciate you raising my awareness of it. I gotta be honest, I was not aware of it. And I
It's
just-
interesting because in 2022, you cited that that it was part of the charter, and I can share you with you.
I know your email. I went back and looked at myself. I don't remember. I do know that I shared with Councilwoman Palmer that I'd like her to be the acting mayor, but I believe what you see there is that I must have got consensus somehow. I don't remember if it was before or after I asked Councilwoman Palmer. I just
I
don't.
mean, you cited in that according to the charter,
Yes.
and then you're saying this year
I
you don't
do.
recall anything about the charter.
No, I don't.
I think it's a good question, is just how do we interpret the charter, which is I think what Karen, you were trying to answer, but the charter says the council should select, but it's kind of vague, in what way, how far in advance, what if it's an emergency? I don't know exactly what we would do in those situations.
How would my question is this. Explain to me how a meeting of this council would organize to make that selection. So we gather here, who calls that meeting to order?
That's what I'm saying, we need clarification on how to interpret what the charter says we're supposed to do.
Right, that
Yeah.
was very confusing.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, if it's ahead of time that we know this is gonna happen, we
Yeah.
would do it and the mayor would call it to order. But if it's an emergency, what happens then?
Right.
You know, it's a good point.
Anything further? New business, Councilwoman Good.
One other thing, if I could, I appreciate the mayor coming back tonight to hold this meeting. I think it was necessary. I think we got all the information that we needed. And I do think that there's further discussion needed on how we do appoint someone from the council to fill in for the mayor and the councilman at large. Without a doubt, that needs to be discussed.
Under new business, I had,
Mayor,
I was, new business, she did.
oh, you did, I'm sorry.
Um, So I'm very disappointed to hear Essity will be shutting down across the street from, or across the river from us in the Southland Falls paper mill. I found out the same morning that everyone else did. I did not know about it ahead of time. It's disappointing. We will work with Warren County and Essity to help where we can to fill as many of these jobs locally as we can. Hopefully they can, someone will come and work for us in our fire and police or maybe DPW on any open positions we have. And so I just wanted to say that I was saddened by that and hope that these folks, that we can get them, keep them working in our community. If there's no other new business, I believe that we, open the meeting back up to public comment. Not hearing any. Peter, is there anybody online? A lot of people online, good. We need to go into executive session to talk about a reevaluation of litigation, but we will not pass any resolutions. So if we could have somebody make a motion now to go into executive session, and then somebody second, and then we'll do a motion to come out and adjourn the meeting and use the same people. If you're all comfortable with that, we can send Mary and our deputy clerk home. We won't be doing, again, any resolutions after this. So do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And
Second.
all in favor? Andrew, and how about a motion to come back out of executive session when we're done?
So moved.
And then a second? And then a motion to adjourn. So moved. And
Second.
thank you, all in favor. Thank you all very much.